lower center of your screen. Anyone has a question, we'll be glad to take any questions, and then Dan will answer those and cover any topic you'd like. All right, our first question is from Jeff Brazella.
Dave, sorry, before we get started, I have a bunch of opening comments. Sorry about that.
Okay, sorry about that. Go ahead,
before, yeah, give people a little more chance to come up with their questions. I have a bunch of information. Okay. So first, good morning, everybody. Great to have you, and thank you for joining. We are intending these daily media briefings to be informational and updates for you around tournament operations. We're not intending to answer questions specifically about tournament selection, seeding, and bracketing, but we'll happy to do so offline if you have questions and would like an interview in that regard. We'd be happy to accommodate. I want to just start briefly by remembering Tom Jernstad this morning, who's my former friend and mentor who passed away in September. This is the first tournament without Tom Jernstad, the former executive vice president for championships at the NCAA, and generally considered to be the father of the Final Four. And so he's always in our hearts and minds as we go forward with March Madness this year after the disappointment of last year's tournament cancellation. I wanted to share with you a bunch of information, and then we'll be happy to open it up, answer any questions you might have. First, about the controlled environment. What is the controlled environment? It's 4 team hotels. They're the JW Marriott, the Marriott Downtown, the Westin, and the Hyatt Regency in downtown Indianapolis, where all the teams are located. It's an officials hotel as well in Indianapolis, and the entire Indiana Convention Center, which is a massive facility, 6 city blocks wide, about 500,000 square feet of exhibit hall space, and another 100,000 square feet of meeting space that the competing teams can utilize. Of course, we have 6 different competition venues we're using as well. We'll use Victory Field, which is a minor league ballpark here, adjacent to the JW Marriott, where teams can get outside and have activity outside in a controlled environment. But it is expected that coaches and student athletes and everyone involved in the official travel party does stay inside a controlled environment at all times, unless being escorted to one of those outside areas. And that's for everyone's health and safety, and for the ability to have this tournament be successful with all 67 games contested. We have a number of teams that have already arrived in Indianapolis. We had 11 different teams arrive on Saturday. We had 35 teams that came in yesterday, and the balance of the teams, of course, will arrive today. Lodging, we have about 2,500 hotel rooms among those 4 different properties that we're using throughout the tournament. Teams will have their own floor, their own individual single rooms and meeting rooms, both in the hotel and the Indiana Convention Center. And all testing will take place within those team hotels. Travel, all teams travel to Indianapolis either by charter aircraft or charter bus, all physically distanced, set up with seating layouts. Each team had 3 buses if they came by bus. Up to 150 buses will be utilized in rotation throughout the week. All 11 teams that came in on Saturday came in by flight. And yesterday, we had 17 different drives by bus and 18 different flights. And today we have 4 drives and 18 different flights coming in today. I will tell you that we had all these teams are coming in or being escorted by police escort. So late into last night, I was hearing sirens outside my hotel room where teams were arriving. I'm excited to be here for March Madness and get this thing started. Teams are taking a PCR test upon arrival and then quarantining in their rooms until they take a second test at least 12 hours later. And then once they get those results back within 4 to 6 hours after the second test and are cleared, can then proceed into the controlled environment practice areas to start preparing for their first game. To date, we've had over 2,100 collections and no confirmed positives to date yet. Food, we're obviously providing a whole lot of food for all these teams. Teams are needing to have at least 2 meals in their hotels as provided by hotel partners that we're utilizing. But we're also then providing opportunity for takeout food to be delivered thanks to our our corporate partners and champions, Buffalo Wild Wings, Pizza Hut, and Wendy's. We've had most all teams that have already arrived use at least one of those great partners for team meals. And then we have other local restaurants as well that are in our team meal takeout program. The Indiana Convention Center also has an academic resource center that's been stood up to support student athletes. As in some cases, this is a school day, as will tomorrow be, and students are studying virtually and remotely. So that academic resource center is available for their support with school supplies and printers. And each student athlete and coach is also receiving, among many different things that they're getting, as a tournament kind of swag bag, the book recently published about John Thompson Jr., I Came as a Shadow. I think it's exciting, in particular this year, that Georgetown won the Big East Championship, and Patrick Ewing will bring his team here to Indianapolis, that players are getting to learn about John Thompson's legacy and what he did for this great game. It is, of course, the first time that we will not have Coach Thompson courtside at the Final Four, working with Westwood One to broadcast the games, and he'll be in our hearts and minds throughout these entire 3 weeks as well. Finally, just a couple of notes on replacement teams. You know that we do have 4 teams that have been identified as the first 4 out to be replacement teams to replace any automatic qualifiers from multi-bid leagues or any at-large teams. Those 4 teams are Louisville, Colorado State, St. Louis, and Ole Miss, ranked in that order. We've been in contact with those schools. They are testing and prepared to come to Indianapolis if needed. The deadline for replacement teams for those 4 or any other automatic qualifiers from single bid leagues would be 6:00 p.m. tomorrow night, Tuesday. Finally, one more note on the tournament. Some of you may know that BYU has a policy they would not compete on Sundays. The NCAA honors that policy for all NCAA championships. The BYU was put into the left side of the bracket in the East region. They will be playing on Saturday in the first round. Should they advance to the second round, they'll play on Monday. They are on the left side of the bracket. That entire left side would play after 5 days on Sunday and Tuesday. Given that BYU cannot play on Sunday, should the Cougars advance to the regionals, we will swap game dates with East region to Midwest region, and BYU and the teams in their region would then play on Saturday and Monday rather than on Sunday and Tuesday. But that would only be actionable and that contingency utilized in the event that BYU were to advance to the Sweet 16. If they do not, then there would be no change to the dates for any teams for the regionals. And happy to answer any questions about that. And then finally, just a code of conduct note. All student athletes and coaches and participants on the official travel party size of 34 have been clearly communicated what the code of conduct is for this championship, especially around COVID protocols. Expectations for everyone is that they stay within this controlled environment, that they mask at all times, that physical distancing is maintained at all times as well, and that meals are done appropriately with spacing or in individual rooms. Of course, this is being done for everybody's health and safety and for all competitors' health and safety as well. But it's also to limit close contact opportunities and the need for contact tracing should we have a positive test. No one is bigger than this tournament overall. No one person, no group of people, and no team. And the basketball committee is prepared, if necessary, to take discipline action should anyone violate that code of conduct in an egregious way and put the jeopardy of the tournament at risk. So we are not anticipating that. We are anticipating everyone is incredibly excited to be here, grateful to have the opportunity, as we all are, and honored to be able to host this national championship. And so I will stop there. Dave, turn it back to you, and happy to answer any questions about any topics anyone would like to ask.
Thanks, Dan. And now we will go to the Q&A portion of the call. And we ask that everyone, once called upon, to state your name and organization and ask your question. And first we'll go to Jeff Borzello.
Hey Dan, Jeff Borzel from ESPN. I just wanted to get clarification on Kansas and Virginia. What is it, a state and local protocol issue that allows Kansas to travel to Indianapolis? I think Bill Self said they were going today, while Virginia is waiting until Friday. Is that a local protocol issue?
Yeah. Good morning, Jeff. Great question. It's exactly right. It was very clear in advance of that any COVID issues prior to arrival in Indianapolis would be managed at the local level, where the team is coming from, by local health authorities. The NCAA has no jurisdiction there. It's either an institutional or a conference issue, working with local health officials from where the team is coming from. So that involves contact tracing. That involves quarantine period. As we know, the CDC quarantine period is recommended at 14 days, but there are alternatives to have quarantine be as low as 7 days. So the only requirement for this championship was 7 consecutive days of negative tests prior to arrival in Indianapolis for any individual, or indeed the entire travel party. So as long as those testing requirements were being met, then teams could come into Indianapolis and compete and participate. In Kansas's case, again, the institution would have to answer those questions, but they've gotten clearance from local health officials. We are anticipating their arrival today. We don't anticipate their entire travel party will be with them. We understand, due to at least one positive case and potential close contacts in quarantine, those individuals would have to stay behind. We do have a protocol to bring them in at a later date once they're cleared by their local health officials. After 10 days, minimally, if it's a positive case, and after the conclusion of the quarantine period, however long that may be, 14 days on down to 7 days, as long as they still have those 7 negative daily tests. We are not anticipating that Virginia will arrive until later this week, due to their local health officials and quarantine that's required before they would be cleared to come into Indianapolis. But again, they, like every single team and every individual here, will have 7 consecutive negative tests before they arrive.
Jeff, do you have a follow-up question?
I'm good, thanks.
Okay.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right. Now we'll go to Matt.
Good morning, Dan. How are you doing?
Good morning, Matt. I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. I'm seeking a little bit of clarification on an issue tied to Virginia. You look better than I do right now, by the way. So the NCAA sent out this exact language to every single team and conference in advance of the tournament. It said teams are required to arrive in Indianapolis no later than Monday night, March 15. What discussions were had to basically give Virginia an exception to that rule? And my follow-up is, given when it's anticipated to land on Friday per Tony Bennett, is there enough time for Virginia to pass 2 tests before it plays its game Saturday evening?
Yep. So yes, we did communicate that in advance for the reason of operations logistics, frankly, to make sure that teams understood that they didn't have the option to determine when they were coming in to Indianapolis. By bringing 68 teams in, we needed to have an orderly intake of teams from Saturday through Monday. We arranged that weeks in advance with conferences, depending on where their championship was. As I mentioned, 11 came in here on Saturday as AQs. More AQs came in yesterday, and then the at-larges came in last evening or today. So that communication was intended to make sure that institutions and conferences knew that they didn't have flexibility as to when we would have transportation available for them to come into Indianapolis. Of course, Virginia's case and any other institution that may have been impacted in such an unusual way by COVID, we dealt with as an exception to that, and work with the institution, if possible, to try to arrange their participation in the tournament should they have been selected, which they were. So in light of that, in light of the fact that they were able to attest that they would have 7 negative daily tests and be able to arrive on time to be prepared to play their first game, we worked individually with that institution to make sure that they could participate.
And do we suspect that they're going to be able to test twice after they land before? Like, is that a requirement?
Okay. It is a requirement. It absolutely is a requirement. So Had that not been able to happen, then they wouldn't have been able to participate in the tournament. And frankly, I mean, every situation is different, Matt, but if a similar situation were to happen today, or frankly would have happened yesterday, it likely would not have resulted in the same outcome, because we wouldn't have enough time. 7 days, including the 2 tests within, separated by at least 12 hours upon arrival. Once the tournament starts on Friday and Saturday, if you get beyond that window of opportunity, which we are now in, it wouldn't result in the same opportunity, unfortunately.
Thank you, Dan.
Sure, thanks, Matt.
Does anyone else have any other questions? If not, then we appreciate your time this morning. And again, a reminder that we'll do this again tomorrow morning at 11 when Dan will provide an update on tournament operations. And we invite you to attend that. Each call is recorded. So if you need to follow up on anything that Dan said, the best opportunity is to email me at dwarlock@nca.org, and I'll use the recording